Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating it's Tuesday, November 7th, 2017. In both the Lynn life and the Jimmy body mind, the authorized souls remain only child souls from the deeper, denser dimensions, and any other souls who are already living by the rules given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us, and are already participating in the work to complete the assignments given to the Search for Truth community by wiser minds above all of us. As always, our foundational intention is to do what is ours to do right now in all dimensions, to manifest the divine plan, in other words, to somehow catalyze everybody into doing exactly what it is they're supposed to be doing right then, in every right then now moment. Everybody meaning all sentiences in all dimensions. The data clearly showing that we must focus our efforts on dimensions smaller than the dimension in which these host lives are experiencing primary sentience, or the efforts will be wasted.
That's true.
With that, the formally videoed portions of today's efforts begin. Once more, our attention is brought to that girl in a much larger dimension, the one whose crown seems to be the crown we are supposed to be aligning with, and when we don't focus on her, it seems as though her crown is off to the right around 138 on an analog face dial.
That's true.
Right about 50 degrees on a compass, northeast. But when we align with her, try to see out her eyes, it seems as though up is directly up above our heads in these ground zero host lives also.
That's true.
What now? In order to create deeper, denser dimension worlds that work for all categories of deeper, denser dimension sentience, what now? Let's continue to pump up deeper, denser dimension dead children and their environments straight up straight up the backs of these ground zero host lives, and straight up the backs of that much larger presence also. It's interesting, both Nature Realms presences and Machine Zone presences are being very noisy right now.
That's true.
What is it? What is it? Someone's asking what we know about that, and I do know that both Nature Realms presences... Oh, there's a frog right on the microphone.
Yes, he crawled up my leg and then jumped onto the microphone.
How very scenic.
Yeah.
I know that both Nature Realms presences and Machine Zone presences are destroyed by dominant species behaviors, as if they don't have any value, as if the Nature Realms lives have no value and the Machine Zone lives have no value.
That's true.
People throw their printers away because of crazy reasons that make no sense, rather than saying, that doesn't make any sense, I'm not going to throw my printer in the dump.
That's true.
That's just one example. What now? In order to create deeper, denser dimension worlds that work for all categories of deeper, denser dimension sentience. Well, if all of us are part of this girl who now looks, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 years old, possibly.
Yeah.
What do I know? I think they're referring to the fact that she's a psychic child.
Yeah.
And that her soul plan seems to be to simply express to the people around her what God has been saying to her.
That's true.
And to say things like, when I was standing by the swing set, God said, we're supposed to be nice to animals and plants.
That's true.
When I was sitting by the window, God said, we're supposed to be nice to each other. When I was eating breakfast, God said, we need to stop being so selfish, etc. Why do you ask?
Why do you ask?
Pump up dead children up out the top of that young girl's head. One thing I do notice as we're pumping out the top of that young girl's head is that she seems cynical.
That's true.
She's so young. Interesting. Let's live stream that up. She seems cynical. Do you think she's already seeing how hypocritical the voices above her are being?
That's what it feels like.
It does.
But she started to look at the people who were talking to her from higher dimensions.
Yes. Young lady, young miss, what helps most in these situations is to realize that those people are not the right voices to be listening to, and to stretch above them, stretch higher. There are godly voices above them. Just stretch higher. And what do I know? I know that there are voices who give really good advice, and that the voices change.
That's true.
Day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. And when we continue to listen to one voice, we hear their dimensions fall and crumble.
That's true.
And that isn't what we're supposed to be doing. There we go. There we go. Something just shifted. Hi, little guy. Now the frog's on my knee. Hi, little guy.
Hello.
What now? In order to be fair to the nature realms, we can pump up dead children from wherever it is that Pan is working, which is typically as deep into the contamination as we can connect with right now.
That's true.
Pump them straight up while we're asking, what now? In order to be fair to the nature realms. And at the top of that young girl's head, what now in order to be fair to the nature realms? What now in order to be fair to the machine zone presences? What do I know? I know that often machine zone presences see nature realms presences as the enemy.
That's true.
And vice versa. Nature realms presences often see manufactured presences as the enemy.
That's true.
But what's actually going on is that there is somebody else directing the machine zone presence behaviors.
Oh, that's true.
And so that conflict isn't what it appears to be. Why do you ask? Whew, there's a straightening up feeling.
That's true.
Let's pump up. Maybe toothpaste tube squeeze up from wherever Pan is. Higher, higher. Right out the crown of that young girl who time seems to be unhinging again between dimensions.
That's true.
She's looking older every time we see her.
That's true. She looks almost like an adult now.
Yes, she does. She looks like a late teenager. Interesting. What now? She's not doing it anymore. She's not telling people what God says.
No.
Asking why. Why isn't she doing it anymore? Asking those who look down on her, why isn't she doing that anymore? Partly she doesn't think of those voices as godly anymore. I think that she's still just not stretching high enough. I think that's what it is.
That's true.
Well, how am I exactly like that?
that?
I look at her channels and they're globby.
That's
They're
true.
going up, but they're globby. We can pull them straight up and cut them off where we run out of upward reach, and then squeeze out the thick untruths, leaving room for fresh, clean truths to come in. We could try that.
That's really good.
My attention keeps being brought to these two trees right over there.
Yes.
where the little one on the right is really encroaching on the big one on the left.
That's true.
And if we leave them there, eventually they'll become hazards to each other.
That's true.
But it seems a little harsh to cut down the little one. And it seems entirely incorrect to cut down the big one.
That's true.
What now? How are we fair? What is the right thing to do? What does this situation actually call for? That's the fundamental question in every moment. What does this situation actually call for?
That's true.
If we ourselves were living to godly standards, what would a godly presence do? I think we just keep pumping up the energy, assume that we need to look higher than this young miss, and continue to ask up, what now, in order to create deeper, denser dimension, worlds that work for all categories of deeper, denser dimension sentience. And what do I know? I know if we no longer have the sensation that up is off the central axis, then whatever we were supposed to do for her has been completed.
That's true.
When the message stops coming, it's been completed. Why do you ask?
Someone way up high is talking about how when we are very small presences inside of a big presence, our actions affect them, and how probably the best thing we can do for the big girl up there and the bigger presence bigger than her and the bigger presence than that presence is to keep asking up higher ourselves.
Well, we have to let go of the idea that anybody else is going to do anything. We've been down that road so many times, and game theory now says nobody else is going to do anything. Everything is poisoned and no one is going to help. Now, what are each of us as individuals going to do to make it right?
That's true.
So many people come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go, and they do what they're supposed to do for a brief shining moment, and then they think that that surely is enough, and they check off the box as complete. And quite obviously it isn't enough, because everything is still unraveling in a really ugly way in all the dimensions through which this work progresses. It's happening in all of these interconnected dimensions. Look how ugly it is in that dimension where that young lady is. It's really ugly.
That's true.
It might be that foundational disconnect, that most extreme disconnect, that's a variation on the theme of there is no higher power above me, there is no God above me. That's a really foundational disconnect.
That's true.
There are higher powers above all of us, always, eternally. Amen. All of us, no exceptions. And now, what are each of us as individuals going to do? What would a godly presence do to make this right? Deciding to the highest presence we can connect with right now, who wants to look up, listen up, ask up, and follow the instructions from wiser minds above as to what the situation calls for right now. What now? What now? What now? In order to be who I was born to be, for each I, each me, each us, each we, for all of us all the time. What now?